Hi, thanks for joining us today. We are here to talk all things IT. I have Hannah Lloyd and Christy Muma with us. They're going to give us some insight into what they love about working in IT and why that's the field they chose. Christy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jessica. I grew up hanging out in telephone closets. My dad worked in telco, and so I was never afraid of or felt encumbered by or wasn't fearful of technology. I just always saw technology equipment around me, and so my comfort level was there. And through my dad's suggestion, I started taking a couple very 100 level technology classes, and they seemed so easy to me, but yet fascinating. That sort of led me down that path. Now, flash forward, I've been in the industry 25 years now, and the reason I love it is still kind of the same thing. We ultimately are helping people do a better job at their job. And I really believe that everyone goes to work daily thinking like, I want to do a good job today. I really think innately people are good and that they want to perform well at work and they want to deliver in their job role. So I see the IT role as enabling them to do their job as efficiently and effectively as they can. And so hopefully when they wrap up their workday, they leave feeling satisfied that they got things done and that they were able to deliver on their job role. So really it's about people pleasing, solving problems. And I feel like that sort of is a universal love of folks that are in IT.
I love that. So well said. And Hannah, we kind of grew up in a tech age, right? We're kind of tech natives. So what really drew you to kind of the back end, right, of all this technology?
So, similar to Christy, where I grew up being around computers, my dad used to build his own computers and he would take home people from works, their computers, fix them up. So, I always thought they were very fascinating. Like, I thought the motherboard was like a little city and I thought it looked like a toy to me. I just always loved computers, was very comfortable with them. And I actually kind of fell into it by accident because I started as an intern and it was supposed to be for the apps team. But I was also helping out with IT. I had a general, higher knowledge of computers, was very comfortable with them. And then IT side needed a lot more help than originally expected. So I got thrown into that. I picked it up really quickly. I love it. So here I am, what, almost 7 years later?
Wow, sometimes when it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Looking back,
Uh,
it was kind of obvious that I would end up in computers. I just didn't know it yet.
that's incredible. And you guys are kind of, the opposite side of the same coin, right? Christy, you've been it for 25 years. Hannah, you have quite a few years under your belt now, but you're still on the kind of having been introduced in the more recent years. What is really, you think, kind of a defining moment in your careers, looking at maybe the .com or Y2K versus, COVID. Christy, if you want to talk about what kind of being in the industry through those big moments has been like.
Yeah, yeah. So, when I reflect back and think, wow, I've been in the industry for 25 years, kind of the first thing I think is I'm definitely getting older, right? But the benefit to that is that over time, I've seen a lot of technology trends. I've heard a lot of buzzwords. I've seen a lot of new concepts. And sometimes when I sort of reflect on my schooling and my background, which is very technical training, it's really a lot of the same concepts and sometimes they just get new branding, right? but and sometimes that frustrates me, right? Because I'll say, oh, this term, it's really this thing we've been doing for 25 years. But the fun part about that, though, even though a lot of things are really the same at some level, of course there's new layers to it. There's nuances, there's opportunities for different ways to utilize things because of newer technologies, and I'm always grateful for that. But when I look back at like big things I was a part of, I was really fortunate to be finishing up my schooling during what was the start of a high focus across the entire world around Y2K and the new millennium approaching and how that would affect computer systems. And to me now, the thought that they didn't use a 4 digit code for the date to save 2 digits of space is just unfathomable, because our ability and access to save data and the amounts of storage we have access to is just unlimitless compared to where we were in the late 90s. So when I reflect on the problem, it's like, wow, I can't believe we actually had that problem. But you have to think about how hard drives used to have less disk space than our phones do now, and they cost $10,000. So, when you look at that time period, it was very challenging. I was on a big Y2K project for a large regional bank, and we literally went through every technology piece that was part of their business to determine, was there a Y2K impact? If it was, what was the path forward? How do we mitigate it? How do we replace it? How do we upgrade it? Or how do we transfer to a different, newer technology? And it was very thorough. And so through that, I learned details. And I also had to work on a project team, which was a great experience to work with a wide variety of folks with different backgrounds. I had to work with finance, security, physical, plant folks, operations, in addition to IT staff. So that kind of diversity and background gave me a great respect for how there's many parts to, a business operation, and everyone's role is important. They're just different roles.
Wow, yeah, it's incredible looking back on it now. Like you said, this worldwide kind of crisis was something that just like simply wouldn't happen now, right? Because we have this improved disk base. That's really, really interesting. Hannah, you in your own right have kind of worked through the next worldwide crisis really since Y2K. We've had impactful moments in history, but for something that affected kind of the globe all at the same time, how has it been kind of taking people into this virtual remote space?
Yeah, so that was definitely a crazy time because we went from all of our customers being in their office every single day, being able to run down and say, "Hey, I need this, I need that," to everybody all of a sudden they're going to be working from home and they need to be able to do the same job that they were doing when they were in the office. And luckily, our we were pretty prepared for it, even though we didn't plan it that way, because most of our employees are remote users. So we already had the technology and the tools and the knowledge to be able to implement these resources for everyone super quickly. But it was crazy to see the change in technology and like the part shortages that were going on for laptops because everyone was trying to get a laptop at that time. So it affected a lot of things. And it was a crazy time, but it was all good. It was fun, getting to learn new things and teaching people how to use their computers in a different way than they were used to before.
Yeah, it's times like this when you really see who the experts are, right? And you
Mhm.
need them to help explain, these processes that you just weren't used to that now are our everyday lives, right?
Mhm.
One last question for both of you. If you could have kind of one piece of advice for someone starting their IT journey now, what would it be? Christy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I would say be humble. There is so many components to technology, and there's so many overlaps and integration pieces that to say that you know everything or that you always know the answer is just a fool's game. So even if you think you have the right solution, or even if you think the problem isn't your software or your stuff, be humble and gracious and say, okay, I'll at least consider that I'm part of the problem. And then how can we identify the path to resolution together?
Right, Hannah?
For me, I'd say pay attention to detail because there are so many things that could go wrong with the simple click of a button. So if you're not paying attention to what you're doing, you're not like paying close attention to those details, you could really mess something up when you didn't mean to. So that's what I'd say. A lot of the work that I do is super detail heavy oriented. How would you say that? Detail oriented, I guess.
That's
Yeah.
That's interesting because it's kind of lessons for life, right? Be
Yeah.
humble and pay attention,
Yeah.
because there's always something you don't know or a button you didn't know connected to something that you didn't know, right? So IT, you never know where it's going to go. It
Yeah.
touches all workplaces, all, industries, our personal lives. So we just wanted to pick your brains because you guys are kind of behind the scenes a lot, and we wanted to see, your perspective on this changing landscape. So thanks so much for joining us today.